What happens when an outspoken duchess meets a talk show host who has zero tolerance for spin? Tonight, we witnessed one of the most explosive confrontations in late-night television history. Meghan Markle vs. Bill Maher. What began as a routine interview on Real Time quickly unraveled into a brutal back and forth, ending with security escorting the duchess off the set. This is the full breakdown of how a simple question about royal life ignited a media firestorm that has Hollywood and the palace buzzing. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and leave a comment, because what you're about to hear, you won't believe. The atmosphere backstage at HBO Studios was already tense. Meghan Markle was making her first major TV appearance since stepping back from royal duties, and her team had been very clear. No questions about the royal fallout. No Netflix drama. And definitely no mention of the recent approval ratings. Her publicist whispered those words to a producer with a forced smile. The producer nodded, politely. But anyone who knows Bill Maher knows exactly how that goes. Maher thrives on the forbidden. He built a career asking what others wouldn't. And tonight, he wasn't about to make an exception for a duchess. As the opening monologue wrapped, with Maher taking his usual jabs at politics, celebrity, and hypocrisy, the audience was primed for what they thought would be a light celebrity segment. They were wrong. Tonight, Maher announced, "We're joined by Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, actress, activist, and someone who's kept the tabloids very busy. Please welcome Meghan Markle." She stepped onto the stage with the confidence of someone used to the spotlight. Perfect posture, a diplomatic smile, designer dress catching the light just right. The applause was warm. The atmosphere was still calm. For now. "Thank you for having me, Bill," she said, settling into her seat. "I'm excited to talk about some of the amazing initiatives we're working on." Maher nodded, then grinned. "Well, before we get to the projects, how does it feel to be the most controversial royal since, well, maybe ever?" The smile on Meghan's face froze for a second. Then she recovered. "That's a bit of an exaggeration. I'm just someone who married for love and wants to make a difference." Maher leaned forward. "Sure, but come on. There's been drama, the Oprah interview, the Netflix deal, the book. At some point it starts to feel like The Crown. Reality show edition. A lotter from the audience." Meghan didn't laugh. "There's been a lot of misinformation. We've simply been trying to tell our truth." "Your truth," Maher repeated, clearly unimpressed. "That's the part I don't get. Since when are there multiple truths? Isn't truth just truth?" Meghan's tone shifted. "When you've been targeted by a coordinated smear campaign from the British press, you learn that you have to speak up for yourself." Maher raised an eyebrow. "Sure, but you knew what you were marrying into. This wasn't a surprise. Harry wasn't working at a car wash when you met him. The guy's whole life was press attention." "That's an oversimplification," she said, voice hardening. "No one can prepare you for the scale of harassment we faced. Or the abuse." "Abuse." Maher's tone was skeptical. "I'm not saying the media's kind, but isn't labeling every negative headline abuse a bit much? You're public figures. You signed a huge Netflix deal. You can't have it both ways. We're talking about racism, invasion of privacy, coordinated efforts to silence us." Now the studio was tense. You could feel it. Maher, sensing the shift, pushed further. "Let's talk specifics then. In the Oprah interview, you said your passport was taken, that you were trapped. But then you were on international trips, baby showers in New York, celebrity events. So which is it?" Meghan's composure cracked, just slightly. "Those are two completely different things. You're cherry-picking." "Am I?" Maher interrupted. "Because it seems like any time someone questions your version of events, the response is they're racist, they're biased, or they're taking things out of context. That's not fair." "What's not fair?" Maher shot back. "Is making massive accusations, like implying someone in the royal family made racist remarks about your unborn child, and then refusing to say who. And later Harry says it wasn't racism, just unconscious bias, so which is it? The audience was dead silent. Meghan's publicist was now waving frantically from the side of the stage, motioning for a segment change, but Maher wasn't letting go, and the line had been crossed, and neither of them was backing down. "I think you're deliberately twisting our words," Meghan said sharply, her voice finally starting to rise. "And I find it telling that you're so quick to defend an institution with a very public, very documented history of racism and exclusion." Maher didn't flinch. "I'm not defending anyone," he shot back. "I'm asking questions. That's what journalists used to do, before asking hard questions became problematic." Meghan leaned forward, the veneer of royal calm cracking at the edges. "I came here thinking we'd have a real conversation. About the work I'm doing, the causes I care about, not a rehashing of tabloid spin and baited questions I've already answered 100 times. Maher raised an eyebrow. Answered. "Really?" "Because from where I'm sitting, every time someone asks a direct question, you sidestep it and play the victim card. Look, I get it. The media can be brutal. But you signed up for this life. And let's be honest, you've made a brand out of talking about this life." "I didn't sign up to have my child's safety threatened." Meghan snapped. "I didn't sign up for the press to manipulate my father, or for my husband's mental health to deteriorate under constant attack. But you did sign up to be a public figure." Maher cut in. "And when you're in the spotlight, especially when you keep putting yourself in it, people are going to form opinions. Some flattering, some not. That's how this works. There's a difference," Meghan said, her voice cold now, "between opinions and organized attempts to ruin someone's life and credibility." "Organized attacks." Maher repeated. "Meghan, you're worth millions. You've got the Netflix deal, the Spotify contract, book deals, a Montecito mansion. Exactly what part of your livelihood has been destroyed?" Her eyes flared. "You think this is about money? You think I left everything, my country, my career, my family, for a paycheck?" "No," Maher said evenly. "I think you left because you wanted control. And being a working royal meant you didn't have it. So you walked. And you built a narrative where you're the victim and the hero. And guess what? It sold really well." "That's not just unfair," Meghan said through gritted teeth. "It's completely untrue." "Is it?" Maher leaned in. "Let's go through it. You join the royal family. You get the fairy tale wedding, millions of taxpayer pounds, global fame. Then you discover royal life comes with limits, protocol, accountability. And suddenly, it's all racism, cruelty, and conspiracy. You leave and sell the story to the highest bidder. You're misrepresenting everything that happened." "Then explain it," he said, bluntly. "Because from the outside, it looks like you wanted all the benefits of royalty. Title, platform, prestige, but none of the rules. That's not true." Meghan fired back. "We tried to work within the system. We proposed a hybrid model, half in, half out. We wanted to serve the Commonwealth and still have some financial independence." "Right." And the palace said no. "Because that's not how the monarchy works. You're either in or you're out. You chose out. Fine. But then you spent the next 3 years dragging the institution that gave you everything." "We didn't drag anyone. We shared our truth." Maher's smirk returned. "There it is again. Your truth. But here's the thing. Truth isn't subjective. Either something happened or it didn't. Either someone said something or they didn't. You don't get to have your truth, Harry's truth, Oprah's truth, and the Queen's truth. There's just truth." Meghan's frustration was now fully visible. Her hands moved animatedly as she fought to hold her composure. "Bill, you're being willfully blind. When your words are twisted, when you're lied about for years, when the coverage you receive is more vicious than any other royal. Sometimes you have to speak out. Sometimes silence isn't strength. Other royals have faced scrutiny. Maher shot back. Diana was hounded. Fergie got humiliated. Even Charles has been roasted in the press. You're not the first royal to be criticized. You're just the first to turn it into a global brand. Even Kate Middleton has faced scrutiny, Maher said. The difference is, she didn't run to Oprah every time someone wrote a nasty headline. Meghan's eyes narrowed instantly. Don't you dare compare our situation to Diana's, she snapped. Diana was trapped, isolated, alone, and surrounded by people who didn't care if she lived or died. Harry and I had each other, and we made the impossible choice to put our families well, being first. Diana also gave interviews. She wrote a book. She courted the press when it suited her, Maher replied. She understood that being a royal meant taking the hits, and she did it with grace and dignity. Meghan's voice rose, her composure visibly fraying. Grace and dignity, she repeated, incredulous. You mean the way she suffered in silence while her husband cheated on her in public? The eating disorders, the self-harm. That's your idea of dignity? No, Maher said coolly. My idea of dignity is not airing your family's dirty laundry on global television for a paycheck. It's knowing that when you marry into a 1,000-year-old institution, you don't get to rewrite the rules just because they don't suit you. So we were just supposed to accept racism. Meghan shot back. Accept that our son would be treated differently because of the color of his skin. Here we go again. Maher sighed. Look, I'm not saying racism doesn't exist, and I'm not saying the royals are saints. But you've made some incredibly serious accusations, and when people ask for clarity, you deflect, accuse them of bias, and act like any pushback is persecution. Meghan stood up now, visibly shaking with anger. The scrutiny has been relentless for 5 years, Bill. Every word I say, every outfit I wear, every move I make, it's all dissected, twisted, used against me. I've been called a gold digger, a narcissist, a liar. And when I try to defend myself, I'm told I'm playing the victim. Because you are playing the victim? Maher said flatly. That's exactly what this is. You've turned every criticism into a personal attack, every consequence into oppression. You can't claim to be silenced while signing multi-million-dollar media deals. I'm not playing anything, Meghan snapped. I'm trying to speak honestly about the trauma we've faced, and you're turning it into a spectacle. I'm asking questions, Maher countered. The fact that you see questions as attacks says more about you than it does about me. Meghan's voice cracked with fury. The real problem is people like you, who think they can say whatever they want about me and my family with zero accountability. That because I married into a royal family, I lost my right to be treated like a human being. You do have the right to be treated with decency, Maher said, his voice steady. But that doesn't mean you're immune to criticism. You made public accusations, serious ones. That means people get to question them. That's how it works. The audience was frozen, hanging on every word, caught between fascination and growing discomfort. This wasn't a charming late-night sit-down. This was raw. Meghan took a deep breath, but her voice trembled with restrained fury. You know what, Bill? I'm done. This wasn't an interview, it was an ambush. You invited me here under the guise of a real conversation, and now you're trying to humiliate me in front of millions. I'm having a conversation, Maher replied calmly. You just don't like the questions. You came on a talk show. This is what talk shows are. This is what talk shows do, Maher said, leaning back. We talk, we debate, we challenge ideas. You call this talking, Meghan snapped. You've spent the last 20 minutes twisting everything I've said and painting me as some villain. This is exactly the kind of hostility that drove us out of the UK. Maher didn't blink. No. What drove you out was the realization that being a royal doesn't revolve around you. You couldn't handle the protocols. You couldn't handle not being the center of attention. Meghan was pacing now, her calm fully shattered. You don't know anything about what we went through, she said, her voice shaking. You don't know what it's like to have your every move dissected, your family threatened, and lies printed about you daily. Actually, I do, Maher shot back. 30 years in this business. I've been criticized, sued, smeared, and threatened. The difference: I don't run crying every time someone calls me a name. Running away, she echoed, glaring. We made the hardest decision of our lives to protect our family. We gave up everything, our roles, our home, our ties to Harry's family, because we had to. You didn't give it up, Maher said coldly. You cashed it in. You kept the titles, the fame, the security. You moved to Montecito, signed deals worth hundreds of millions. Let's not pretend you walked away with nothing. We gave up service. We gave up legacy. We gave up the life we knew, Meghan insisted. You chose to give that up, Maher countered. Because the real story here is simple. You saw a better opportunity. That's not true. It is. And you know it. You weren't forced out. You didn't fit into the monarchy because you didn't want to be part of something bigger than yourself. Meghan spun to face him, her voice cracking with fury. How dare you question our commitment to service? Look at what we've done. Our foundation, our work on mental health, women's rights, racial justice. Maher cut her off. You mean the podcast where you talked about yourself for 12 episodes? The Netflix doc where you compared your wedding to Nelson Mandela's release from prison? Or the book where Harry settled every family score in print? We shared our experiences to help people who feel voiceless. We raised awareness. You sold a revenge story, Maher interrupted. And hey, there's nothing wrong with making money, but don't pretend it was about justice. It was about control. Control, yes. Control over the narrative. Control over how the world sees you. And when the world didn't react the way you wanted, you labeled them racist, abusive, backward. You didn't just leave the royal family. You tried to burn it down. Meghan's voice trembled now, her restraint hanging by a thread. We left because we feared for our child. We didn't want him growing up constantly compared to his cousins, treated like less because of who his mother is. And yet, you've put him on Christmas cards, in your docuseries, your public statements. You talk about protecting your kids from the spotlight, and then you shine it right on them. How is that protection? Because we choose what's shared. We decide what's public, not the tabloids. Maher tilted his head. And how's that working out? Your approval ratings are tanking. Half the country thinks you're attention-seeking. The other half thinks you're delusional. But sure, at least you're controlling your story. I don't care about approval ratings, Meghan hissed. I care about being able to look my children in the eye and say I stood up for what was right. And what was right about it? Maher pressed. Publicly accusing your in-laws of racism without evidence. Exposing private family conversations. Turning pain into profit. What was right? Meghan said, breathing hard, was refusing to be silenced, speaking up when we saw injustice. Choosing our family over a broken institution. Maher shook his head slowly. You wanted to be the star. And when the spotlight didn't move with you, you torched the stage. Meghan froze. Her hands clenched at her sides. Her jaw tightened. That's enough. Her voice cracked thick with rage. I don't have to sit here and take this. I won't be humiliated by someone who's made a career out of mocking people like me. No one's stopping you, Maher said, shrugging. But walking off only proves the point, that the moment someone challenges you, you crumble. I'm not crumbling, Meghan said, rising. I'm refusing to play along in your character assassination masquerading as journalism. I'm asking for accountability, Maher said calmly. If you can't defend your choices, maybe the problem isn't with the questions. Maybe it's the answers. You came in with your mind made up, Meghan shot back. Nothing I say was ever going to matter to you. Then sit down and prove me wrong, Maher said. Answer the questions. I'm done. Without another word, Meghan turned and stormed toward the wings, her heels echoing against the stage floor. The audience sat in stunned silence. Ladies and gentlemen, Maher said with a wry smile, motioning toward her exit, Meghan Markle. Another fearless crusader for truth and justice, as long as the questions are scripted. You're pathetic, Meghan called out over her shoulder. And you're exactly who I thought you were, Maher replied, not missing a beat. Thanks for confirming it. The cameras kept rolling as she vanished behind the curtain, leaving Maher alone on stage. He turned to the camera. Well, that was illuminating, he said with a smirk. I guess when you build your brand around victimhood, any resistance feels like violence. The show cut to commercial. The audience didn't clap. They just sat there, stunned, breathless. Behind the curtain, Meghan's voice could be heard, furious, demanding her security. Her publicist was already on the phone, damage control in full swing. But the damage was done. This wasn't just a talk show moment. It was a cultural flashpoint, a televised implosion that would be dissected, debated, and mimed for years to come. When someone used to controlling the narrative meets someone who refuses to play by the script, something has to give. And tonight it did. What do you think? Was Bill Maher too brutal? Or did Meghan Markle prove his point the moment she walked off? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more explosive showdowns just like this one. And one last question. Do you think Meghan will ever agree to an unscripted interview again?